So that's when I said, no, I'm in the bathroom. I'm just flushing a stink bug. And no, that's not a euphemism. Everybody, and welcome to episode 37 of From the Middle. If you are just joining us for the first time, From the Middle is a podcast hosted by myself, Corey Hubble, my brother, Dylan Hubble, and our good friend, Kendall Alala. And we are just middle-class guys living in the middle of America in the middle chapters of our lives with a point of view that's somewhere in the middle. So we get together, we talk about life, dad stuff, geek stuff, movie stuff, cool stuff, neat stuff. Did you ever see that Garth Brooks thing when he first got on social media? That's what I'm doing.
Oh.
Thank goodness that's not you're impersonating.
Yeah. Can you imagine how crazy that would be?
Loser.
So anyway, that's who we are. That's what we do. We get together weekly and talk about just life and interesting things, and sometimes it's topical. Sometimes we play silly games. Sometimes we record episodes of ourselves playing those games and then say that can never air.
Yeah. And not for any good reasons. Just because it's bad.
Before we get into it tonight, we have to shout out Samson, who let us borrow a segment of his track Movement for our intro music. His EP Afterlight is now available on iTunes. And so thank you, Samson, for letting us use that. You can follow him on social media at Samson. That's SAMSIN 111, and Samson everywhere else. Thank you, man. Appreciate it. And congrats on the EP. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Very cool. Not like Samson with a P, though.
Not Samson with a P.
There's not a P in there. Just so you know. Y'all know.
No, he's got good stuff. It's like electronic music, and it's like it's some cool sounds and experimental kind of sound and stuff, and it's really neat. So we appreciate you letting us use that.
He's a talented individual guy.
There's a lot of syllables in that word. So what's up, guys? Do we want to go around the horn and give some updates and let people know where we are in life? Kester's favorite part.
Yeah. I just want to say this episode will release just a couple days before Valentine's Day.
Indeed.
So hopefully everyone has a lovely Valentine's Day. If you don't celebrate it, that's fine. But if you do...
It was a holiday created by Hallmark to sell more cards, and I ain't participating.
You know, it's more work to have that discussion than to just buy a card.
Or just don't buy a card, but still celebrate the day.
Or don't. Yeah, that's
How
fine.
about that?
Make dinner.
That does the same thing.
Make dinner together with a loved one or a friend or your grandma and just enjoy the day.
Happy Valentine's Day, everybody.
Yeah, as everybody's 3-year-old says. Happy Valentine's Day.
Yeah. I will have a box for your cards on my desk at work. For you to bring it around during class and drop it in.
Nice. Oh,
Does anybody have big plans for
startup company? You guys probably do have a Valentine's Day.
I wish. Nothing I've heard of yet. If there is, I have very little time to decorate my box.
You should introduce it. You should tell them, hey, this year for Valentine's Day, everybody make a shoe box.
Yeah. Everyone decorate
Go
a
to
shoe
Kroger,
box.
find a thing.
Bring in the cards, and we're going to do it.
Speaking of your company, you started to say something, and we go, wait, save it for the cast, fellas.
Oh, yeah.
There's some tragic news.
Yeah.
I came in to work this morning and found out there was some slight shifting of desks and who's going to sit where. And rest in peace, Megadesk.
No.
Yes. I now have an occupant.
Remind us about the Megadesk.
Yeah. I now have an occupant in the desk beside me that was formerly empty. It was a...
Are they a jerk?
No, it's my boss.
Well,
no, he's delightful.
I think he needs to hit the bricks.
These are motorized desks that can go like really low, or standing desks or whatever you want.
Right.
And so typically what we would do is we would put it at the max height and then put a huge beanbag chair underneath it.
Yeah.
So we had this really nice kind of like resting nook in between two desks, but that is gone. And
That's
now it is
sad.
occupied. And so it is the end of Mega Desk. I'm sorry, none of you ever got to see pictures.
Where there was formerly a beanbag chair underneath that surface where people would read. And
Yeah.
As he just said, yeah, you were too busy flipping
I'm
me
sorry.
off.
I was
There is
measuring.
now an efficient managerial employee working in that spot now. So rest in peace, Mega
Well,
Desk.
where was that employee before?
At a different desk.
Why tell him to
I
go
don't know.
home?
I don't know why we change. It's like when you're in elementary and they tell you to change seating chart, and you're like, but Mitch is right there. I don't want to move. I like
Right.
Mitch.
Yeah.
He doesn't make problems.
Yeah.
And then you still got to move because they're the teacher and you're a kid and you don't know any better. And that's what happened.
I'm sorry you lost Megadesk.
Megadesk is
Man.
gone, and it feels like you're just rubbing it in now. So
I'm not rubbing it in.
And frankly, I don't like your tone.
I'm mourning with you.
that's good. That's good.
we mourn
And
with those who
I'm
mourn.
trying to come up with solutions, such as fire your boss.
Yeah, I'll think about it.
Okay.
So we'll see what we can do. But anyway, so yeah, that's an update, and it's gone. Work's going well though. Otherwise,
Your life is really hard, is what you're saying.
you have no idea. I wish I could have given the full sigh that was in my head that didn't come out, but
Yeah.
here we are. So yeah, that's a quick update. How about you guys?
I don't know. Valentine's Day is a favorite in our household,
Really?
apparently.
How close to Christmas? Because we know that's a big one.
Well, for Amy, Valentine's Day is her favorite sort of time of thing. So like we have Valentine's decorations in our home. Not a whole lot, but some.
Right.
And the kids are now like all about it. My daughter specifically all about it. So now she's hearts, and what used to be nothing but rainbows and unicorns is now all hearts, which is adorable.
Sure.
But every 2 seconds, she's drawing a new heart on a piece of paper with red markers, and then wants to save them all. And our solution to that so far has been there is a drawer in your bedroom. You can store all of these in there.
Yeah.
But that now, like, that's going to become a problem because of how she loves doing art. She loves drawing, and she wants to save every piece of it. And so we just tell her, like, I always ask her, can we throw this one away, or do you need to keep this one? And she always says she needs to keep it. So then I hand it to her, and I tell her, okay, go put it in your room. And
It's fair.
It is fair. Now, obviously, when they're taking a nap or after bedtime and I'm cleaning up the house and I see stuff, I throw it away. And I'm not that good of a parent that I'm like keeping this stuff because they're hers.
Yeah.
I throw their stuff away all the time.
Yeah.
But so that's what's going on in my life right now. But also, and this has happened once or twice before, but currently right now, like I am like my daughter who's 4. I have become again like her new favorite toy. And so like she's all about me, and she was telling my wife the other morning that like sometimes when she gets sad, she says I just go see my daddy.
Oh, man.
Every day,
The best.
Every day, she's been asking me to dance with her.
Oh,
Yeah.
the best.
And at night, at bedtime, it's always the kids always watch videos with my wife for like their bedtime activity, whatever is what I've coined it. And the past couple nights, instead of doing that, like she wanted me to dance with her in her room before she went to bed instead.
That's good.
I'm loving it.
It's awesome.
I'm loving it.
The kids, they go through phases on which parent they're more infatuated with, or if they're infatuated at all, right? And it kind of swings. So typically it's Sherry, but every once in a while they'll have phases where it's like, Dad's pretty cool.
Yeah.
And I enjoy those. So I know what you mean.
Yeah. So I'm all about that, and I'm living it up.
Good.
Now, outside of the Valentine's decor, is there certain like activities or foods or things that tie into this being a big deal?
Eating sweethearts?
Okay, so that's a big, like my wife
the
loves
conversation hearts that were not around last year.
Yeah.
Which was very sad, and they're back this year, which makes me very happy.
You mean wholesale or like Columbus Market or your closest grocery store? Like, what do you mean they weren't around?
They didn't exist last year.
The company quit manufacturing them for a year.
Yeah, it's the Necco company is who always made those. There are imposter conversation hearts that were out last year. They were the I don't remember the brand name. If they come in,
don't give them the airtime.
I'm not going to give them the airtime.
Don't even give them the airtime.
If they're fruity, if they're like tangy-ish fruity flavors, and they don't break your teeth when you bite into them, they're not the real ones.
Okay,
got it.
Like sweet tarts.
Yes.
Okay.
So, no, last year there were some that were in bags, and they're still around again this year. But what you want to find specifically are like, the little like deck of card size boxes.
Okay.
Is what you're looking for.
Yeah, my wife loves conversation hearts.
Me
not into them at all.
Too.
For me, it's an excuse to eat a Reese's in a different shape.
There you go.
Right, this time of year, it's a heart. 3 weeks, it'll be a bunny. Sometime after that, it'll be something, an egg, whatever. And it just keeps changing sizes and shapes. But
I'm convinced that the egg ones actually taste better for some reason.
I mean, they're darn
Is it
good.
a ratio thing?
I think it's probably
I
a
would
ratio
buy
thing.
it if it's a ratio thing.
Yeah,
I think it's a ratio thing.
There are very few desserts and treats that are ever as good as you think they're going to be. But
True.
Reese's is one of those that is always exactly as good as you think it's going to be. You might get an expensive dessert at a restaurant and be like, I don't know. It was good.
Yeah.
But never a Reese's.
Fantastic. Oh, and another thing, I feel like it's kind of themed with us because Dylan and has Mountain Dew running through his veins.
You have a Diet Whatever over there?
I have a Diet Whatever over here. Mountain Dew Zero Sugar is a new thing that intrigued me. We had a off-air conversation last week about the differences between Diet Coke and Coke Zero.
Right.
And we're basically in agreement, the two of us, that there is definitely a difference between those two.
Yeah.
There's marketing stuff on the color of the cans, but they do taste quite different from one another. And I will go ahead and save people time that Mountain Dew Zero Sugar, it's Diet Mountain Dew, which I don't particularly enjoy, but I bought a 12-pack of it, so I'm drinking it.
Thanks for sharing. I know why you shared now because you're like, it's not that great. Here, try some.
It's one of those situations. I want people to share in my disappointment.
Yeah.
No, I just got done telling people not to drink it.
We don't know who we are.
Or just buy a Diet Mountain Dew. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It's such an indistinguishable difference that my brain says something is different slightly, ever so slightly, but I don't know. I couldn't describe it to you.
I had very high hopes because when Coke Zero came out, I was all about it. And I'm like, this is way closer to regular Coke than Diet Coke ever will be. Yeah. Diet Coke kind of has its own flavor and I think therefore its own kind of following.
Yeah.
And so there are people who don't want you to mess with Diet Coke. They legitimately like it. I'm looking for the best mimic as possible.
Right.
Which Coke Zero is.
Yeah.
And so I love Mountain Dew. I hate Diet Mountain Dew. I feel like Diet Mountain Dew in the soda world is the worst mimic of any of them.
It probably is.
And
of all the major ones.
And so then when I saw Mountain Dew Zero Sugar, given my Coke Zero experience, I was like, oh man. And then I saw it in the store. I bought some, and then womp, womp.
In your mind, it was just going to be this buffet of conversation hearts and Mountain Dew Zeros. Just all you wanted, but not how it
exactly.
Not how it turned out.
Not how it turned out.
What about you, Corey?
People get passionate about their pop. This is exciting.
Absolutely.
And yes, we said pop because we're from the middle.
You betcha.
So we're going to talk about the show Lego Masters later. But my update is that, as dads, you have moments and days and seasons where you're just living reactively and there's a lot going on. And then other times you're very intentional and you're very fun and you design something fun for your kids. And I had one of those weekends. So Sherry is in Colorado for work for 5 days. So it's me and the kids. And I said, we're going to do our own Lego Masters weekend. And so I have been collecting my Lego since I was a kid. And over time have been sorting it by color and shape and type into these organizers. And if you're a AFAL, that's Adult Fan of Lego. That's the acronym. Huge nerd. If you're an AFAL, you sometimes buy sets just for the minifigures, so you don't actually put the vehicle or the ship or the building together. You really just want the guy.
Yeah.
Wow.
So then what happens
Okay.
is you leave the rest of the pieces in a Ziploc bag or in the box, and that box will sit somewhere. So I had all these piles of pieces that needed sorting, and I was so excited.
Yeah.
And so I said, I'm going to make a contest for my kids. So the first round of the contest was you had to design or create a themed mode of transportation. I said mode of transportation intentionally because if they wanted to make like a crazy horse or something, they could, right? So,
Sure, okay.
So a themed mode of transportation, that was round one. And then round two, we haven't had yet, but it's going to be you have to create a hero or a villain's base or layer. And you should try to make the base or layer match, kind of feel like it makes sense for that hero or villain. So that'll be round two. So we're doing all these rounds of Lego Masters, and I make them say their name. What is the name of your piece? And you have to give me the backstory behind it. So Case, who's 5, started, and he's like, Case, and I call it... I forget. I recorded little videos. It's adorable. So then I made him go down the line, and then the winner got a metallic silver 2x4 brick, and they got to choose the next round. And so it was just like fun. They had a blast with it, and I gave them 2 hours to build the first round while I was over there sorting piece at a time by color and type. And I've done this with my nephews before, where I made and designed in Photoshop like first place ribbons for each category and gave them to them. And I just found out the other day that my nephews have kept their ribbons that they won in the contest I created for them all those years ago. So anyway, that was kind of fun. I wrote an article for work that comes out this week. I was kind of talking about it when we were talking about music and musicians in Nashville. And I was talking about this idea of high performing teams and the ability to sort of riff. And I said I was writing this article about it. Mm-hmm. So I wrote that, and that'll come out this week. So I'm looking forward to that because it's really just kind of me bragging on my team, and I think we got a good thing going over there. So it's a fun little commercial for us that I was able to do. So yeah, it's updates for me.
If you were to choose only one way of sorting Legos, if you weren't entirely crazy, would it be more useful to sort it by color or by type?
Well, that's why I do both, because it's hard to pick just one. But I would say if you had to, it'd be color.
It'd be color.
Yeah, because the types, there's fewer colors and a ton of different types.
Well, that would just make it easier to sort.
Yes.
But that would also make it more useful than the alternative.
Well, here's what it is. So some people get Lego sets and they build that exact set of the instructions and they never tear it apart.
That's what I would do. Like I would, and then
Right.
when I take it apart, I put it back in that box. Is what I would do.
Some people leave that sitting on a shelf for a while. They eventually get tired of it. They take it all apart and then they free build and they just make whatever they want.
Okay.
Then if you decide to go build that original thing again and you know you need a really specific piece,
Okay.
you have a pile of colors that you now know.
Okay.
That's what I'm going to go find it. What I used to do, all my Lego was in one big red storage tote.
Right.
And so if I needed that rare piece, I was literally sifting
Yikes.
through a massive pile to try to find that one unique piece that I needed.
Yeah.
And you waste a lot of time.
Okay.
Because all of this other stuff is a really good use of my time.
And then, of course,
is what I'm saying.
Yeah. And then my second follow up is okay. So organized by color and type, but then are you like starting in the top left, heading over, or are you alphabetizing the name of the colors?
Yes.
You are.
Yes.
So blue is first.
Black is first.
Black is first. Yes. I knew it.
I have so many problems. I have so many problems, you guys.
This was not. I had no idea that was true. We have not talked about this. He has never mentioned that to me before. I just asked the question because there was an inkling.
We're really getting to know each other because the fact that you would even venture that question says a lot about your perceptiveness and my mental illness.
I think there's a good handful of middlers out there who've never met you who probably would have guessed that.
Oh man,
Probably from Oregon.
From Oregon.
From Oregon. They would
So
have picked
anyway,
it up.
we're going to talk about Lego Masters later because it kicked off last week.
Or now.
Might as well
Or
just do
just
it now.
We can just go right. I mean, we can go back to talk
There's a
about.
segue.
We can talk about pop more if you want. But
we've got to learn. We're getting better at learning how to do a podcast thing.
Yeah.
But there's a segue that was in your lap. No, well, then there's also the problem is that the Lego isn't next on the list.
But chronologically, it happened first. As long as I can find a reason. In the timeline of life, it happened before the Oscars, which we plan on talking about.
yeah. I get tired just from listening your reasons for things.
It's exhausting being in this brain.
I love it. I love
Yeah.
it.
I don't know why I'm like
I
this.
You know I kid. It's fine.
Well, no,
I have a lot of my own weird stuff.
I feel like there's a big part of me that appreciates all of that. There's even sort of like an ideal within me that wants to do some of that, but I'm just too lazy to pull any of it off. And so it's not an urge, but there is an appreciation there that I have.
Here's the good news if you're like me and feeling self-conscious about it. There's always someone weirder than you. So you could Google like people's like Lego collections, and people have entire basements of drawers by color, alphabetized, and minifigs, and these are all my castle blocks, and these are all my ship blocks. And it's just, I mean, there are some pretty cool man cave ideas of what you could do with your Lego collection. I did tell Case, I was like, one day this will all be yours. And then he was like, what do you mean? Like, why? Like, just when you're older, like, will I still live with you? Well, no, you're going to have your own family. And then he told Sherry that night at bedtime, I don't want there to be other people.
What did you do to him?
I was trying to make him excited. Like, I've been collecting all of this to pass down to you.
You didn't think about the fact that the immediate follow-up is, why? What happened to you?
I started all of this off by saying sometimes you have good dad moments and sometimes you have bad dad moments.
Yeah, at least you try to give him. You try to like explain it instead of just like, what do you mean? Daddy's gonna die.
I've never heard of the strategy of explaining death with Lego, but hey, you tried it.
They make skeleton pieces.
It's true.
That got dark. Okay.
That would be at the bottom right with the other white pieces.
Right.
It's good.
Yep.
We might as well talk about Lego Masters then.
Yeah.
What were your initial thoughts? Dan Kendall, did you watch it? Or,
I saw bits and pieces.
Okay. Pun intended.
The pun was not intended.
Were they organized?
Were they organized? No, I got it. I saw enough of it to get the gist.
Yeah.
That's funny.
Okay, go ahead.
I love that. Again, huge, stupid, nobody really cares geek thing. But I love that. Like one of Will Arnett's first line was that the plural of Lego is Lego, not Legos.
Yes.
That was really funny.
How is that funny?
Because if you're in that culture, subculture,
Right.
only the huge geeks really care about that.
Yeah.
And the AFOLs care about that.
Yeah.
And the fact that he called it Legos first and then was like, I'm kidding. We all know it's Lego.
Oh, okay.
Well, it was literally a joke because he said something like, I know everything there is to know about Legos.
Yeah.
And then he got somebody in quote piping in over his earpiece going, what? What's it called? Oh, it's not called. Oh, it's just called Lego.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
Great.
Yeah, you did it way better.
Yeah. So that was literally the joke that he was making,
Right,
you
yes.
know, about that, him knowing all about Lego.
Right. I also appreciate that it's such a subtle joke to most of America.
Yeah.
That it needed to be explained.
Yeah. Nobody knew that Legos was wrong other than less than 1% of the audience.
Right.
Lego bricks is also acceptable.
I knew because of From the Middle.
Yeah. Because we're weird. Right.
And educational.
Mm-hmm.
We're making you better people.
For the things that really matter.
The big things in life, you know?
Yep.
What do you? I liked it. I thought it was good. I would have liked to see more like. So they have a theme each night. There's 10 teams.
Yeah. As of now.
And there's a giant table of a green. It's just a green base, like grass, and then there's a big train running through it. That table is segmented into 10 chunks, and then each team gets to take their chunk and create a part of the theme park. And it has to be themed. So one team did like a desert thing where again, remember, there's a roller coaster going through all of it.
Yeah.
So you can't manipulate that. That has to stay the same. So they made it like going through the Sphinx, and there's sand and pyramids and stuff. And another one did like a alien UFO scene and whatever. And then it's a competition show, and they have how many? 18 hours?
16
a
hours.
very long time.
Yeah.
This has got to be literally like a bell to bell. They start at 8 or 9 in the morning and they work through the whole day, I'm guessing.
Yeah. And then they present theirs, but the sub, I guess, direction they were given was there has to be a functioning ride. So that's the part of Lego that I've never really been good at, is like designing robotic pieces and things that like little simple machines that do stuff. So they had to have a ride in the part of their park that was a moving thing. And so they have 16 or 18 hours or whatever to do it. They present, and then they get critiqued by 2 Lego master builders. And it's kind of fun. So I liked it. I enjoyed it. The thing I wish they would have done more of is showing that each team's thinking in the practicality of their builds. They explain their themes and why they want to do that theme. And we think we'll do this. And they do some sketches on little iPads first, and they brainstorm. But to show the different ways that they creatively use the bricks, like that you might not otherwise think of. There's a book out there that I got once by DK Books. They make a lot of fun educational picture books, and it's like ways to use Lego bricks that you've never thought of before.
I've seen something that was like Lego cheats or something. Or
it's like almost like hacks for Lego bricks.
Kind of like hacks, yeah.
Like the binoculars, for example, you can put that on a regular gun and make it look like a different kind of like double-barreled gun. And I'm like, I've never thought of it using them that way. That's kind of smart. Like, anyway. So I wish they did a little more of that, but no one else would probably like that. But if you do like Lego, those are the fun things that I wish they got a little more into. Like, we're using these pieces because blah, blah, blah. But
I really enjoyed it. So my initial thought at the end of the episode was it's clearly over the top, but it's also very self-aware of what it is. And so, and that's kind of driven by Will Arnett, who's at some point, they're kind of going around and interviewing these teams of people that are building. By the way, the show is on a traditional network show on Fox. So it's probably Fox On Demand and Hulu or whatever, if you want to go watch it. Sure. But it was funny because he's talking about how he's like, Will Arnett's saying to one of the contestants, this is kind of odd because, I'm supposed to be here talking to you as if we have all this rapport built when really I just met you and now we have to sit here and talk for 5 minutes, and so it's very aware and it's kind of silliness.
And then he goes, can you imagine if we were to start this conversation and then have to go to commercial break?
Yeah.
And then it goes to commercial break.
Right. Yeah.
So it's like, it's making fun of itself.
Yeah.
And it's kind of fun in that way.
Yeah, and the initial prize came out in whatever kind of sports car, and they lifted the hood, and then there's a pile of money, and then they move the pile of money out of the way, and then it's a gold brick that's like a Lego brick. That's the reward. Yeah. So it's
the winner gets, and then they roll in the car, and everybody's cheering. You're like, no, it's not the car.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then he goes through, and then there's money. It's like, no, it's not the money either.
Yeah. So it's clearly over the top, but I love that it's self-aware enough because it's Lego. I mean, it's fun and silly and playful and whatever. But I love that. And when you talk about adult fans of Lego, I think to a lot of adults, the idea of adults playing with Lego isn't that odd, but to the extreme with which some of the adults play with Lego, the size and the scale and how collectible it is might seem odd. And then so to see the mix of people on the show that were contestants was great.
My wife and I were having this conversation that's like, I bet you they had to look long and hard.
Well, I'm sure they plan on having more than one season.
There's the one team that's like 2 guys in their 30s with beards. And like those guys were easy to find, or no, there's it's like those guys were easy to find. It was probably very difficult to find other teams that don't look like them.
Yeah, well, and fair point. Yeah, I mean, who does a show with a bunch of people that look the same?
Oh no.
And then
YouTube was a bad idea.
You had this. That's right. Don't watch YouTube this episode. Anyways. And then you had the super animated lady from Arkansas. I don't know if you saw her.
With the big hair.
With the big hair. And she's like, the bigger the hair, the closer to God. So you just had this kind of like funny character. Like some of these people are from a sitcom and aren't real people.
Yeah.
Like it was so good though. So I just appreciated that. I thought
they're
it was
also
a lot
adult
of fun.
Lego people. But here's the outside take on that you said, like, it might be kind of shocking for a lot of adults, even adults who like Lego, to like see people on this level. And I think it's because my guess is that most adults who like Lego again. Like it's that, like, there was a period of time where Lego was not a part of their life, and then now it is again. And then it's a touch of nostalgia. Versus these people, it is not a nostalgic thing. It's a legitimate hobby that has always been a part of their life.
Yeah.
And that's what's unique about those folks, I think.
I agree.
I'm going to keep watching. We watched as a family. The kids loved it. When there's an hour left, Will goes, I tried to think of a subtle way to tell them that there's 1 hour remaining, and all these alarms go off, and it's like 1 hour remaining. And Chloe, my middle daughter, goes, oh my gosh, I would be panicking. Like, I would be so nervous because they weren't done with their builds yet, and the mechanical things had broke, and they knew that if that doesn't function, they might get eliminated. And like, just like the cooking shows when it's like, you have 10 minutes left, and they're all, there's a frenzy. And we're going to keep watching as a family. It's I
thought a really sweet part of the show, especially for the kids that are watching. So as they're getting ready to present one team's sort of effort, and this is our final product, and they're about ready to sort of do the pan and show it all off.
Yeah.
They actually animate and bring to life that team's thing. So all this, for just a brief moment, it goes from being some set that's built on a table, and it's brought to life, and the characters are moving, and the cars are moving, and everything's animated like a Lego movie. And I thought that was really sweet.
And they gave it some CGI in the whatever.
Yeah, I thought that was a really nice
That's a term
touch.
that's probably not used anymore. But yeah, they gave it this backdrop, beautiful backdrop, and everything. So now it like legitimately looks and feels like you're in a theme park.
Yeah,
so I like that they
feels
put
really
that,
brought to life. I thought
they
it was
put that
sweet.
TV magic part into it. That was cool.
Yeah,
because that's one piece of culture around Lego that is kind of exploded, is even kids doing little stop motion animation videos using Lego bricks.
Yeah.
So there's entire like World War II, like Normandy invasion, all done in Lego bricks, where they're doing it in stop motion animation on a large scale table with the German pillboxes and the landing craft, and it's like and then there's funny ones, and even kids are making these little cartoons. So that has become sort of a part of the culture of Lego, which is why when they did the movies,
kids playing with them.
Yeah. That's why when they did the movies, they wanted it to maintain and feel like that it was a stop motion animation, as opposed to, we could have done CGI, and those do exist, those cartoons, but for the feature length films, they wanted it to feel like that stop motion kind of feel. Mm-hmm. So anyway, good stuff.
Yeah, I thought it was a lot of fun. I'm like you. I'm excited to keep watching, and
it was fun. I enjoyed it. I felt like it to me. It almost had the flow of it, and part of this is, I think, is just experience. Kind of had a clunkiness to it that made me feel like this is not going to last.
Yeah, it's not groundbreaking television where people are like.
But I've often thought about I've often loved a TV series, a sitcom, whatever, and then you go back and you watch the pilot season, you're like, that clunkiness was there.
Right. It was fine.
So I feel like that clunkiness is always there. So I don't know. We'll see. But to me, it kind of felt like something that was fun and entertaining, not necessarily something that I expect to be around for very long.
Yeah, it was very formulaic, and how they came into the studio. It's like every baking show on right now. They all walk into the studio. It's all decorated. There's kind of some of those generic game show type sound effects that play when things happen. There's the timer, there's the rules. Okay, start. I mean, in that way, it was every baking competition show that you watch.
Some post-production emotional manipulation that goes on.
There's the talking head interviews off to the side, they're so in that way it felt very formulaic. I don't think you're bringing it really to a new audience who some kids have seen the cooking shows, but obviously being geared towards kids and adult fans of Lego that aren't really going to care. They're just excited to see the thing that they're watching get some screen time. Because I can't imagine as a kid if you had said there's eventually going to be a whole game show built around Lego. It just wouldn't have computed to me as a kid that would even be a thing, and here we are. So I just think it's fun.
Yep.
Cool.
Awesome. Anything else you guys have been watching?
Watch the Oscars.
Oh.
The 92nd Annual Academy Awards.
Yeah. Kendall, did you watch the Oscars?
Again, I watched bits and pieces of it.
That's all right. I feel like that's pretty common now.
Yeah.
Like to go back and watch, like somebody will look up the next couple days what won, watch a few snippets of the performances, and maybe not actually watch the whole thing. My wife and I did watch most of it. Some of the pregame, some of the the red carpet stuff. She enjoys that more, and then the actual.
Because she likes the fashion stuff and like celebrity culture and.
Yeah, she's much more into that. She just likes seeing, all the different dresses and styles and suits and all that. Is more fun for her than probably the actual awards. For me, I'm not watching the Oscars because I want to see millionaires and billionaires give awards and applaud other millionaires and billionaires. I'm genuinely into movie culture. I like to go and for me, it's kind of almost like watching trailers before a movie and you're just into all the trailers.
Yeah.
Like I want to see what I might want to watch next. And I think sometimes it's helpful to have, unlike the whole of the internet that thinks that they're movie experts, sometimes it helps to have actual experts kind of ranking movies for you. So it can help kind of tee up some of the things you might want to see. So perfect example, the film Parasite from a director and a whole cast.
I was going to say, is this where we all pretend like we've heard of that movie?
No one has.
I've been tracking this since pre-production. It's let me tell you.
Yeah, there are a lot of phony cinephiles that would probably love to say that they've been following it forever.
But you were about to make the exact opposite point.
Yeah, I was.
Before I had to interrupt you with that thought so I could get it in there.
Yeah, well, I just want to wedge it in.
So that's what I do.
Yeah, you're so ahead of the curve.
You're like, Corey, that's how this whole thing started. Corey was like, I've been thinking about doing a podcast with my brother, and I'm like, I'll do it too.
Yeah. I was already thinking about one. I have all the equipment. If you wanted me to help, I guess I could just jump in and help. I mean, it's fine. I was already going to do it anyways.
I'll just produce it if you want to, and then I'll put a microphone in front of myself. And
I don't have to be in it. But
hey, you're making stickers. Make sure my face is in the middle.
You know why your face is in the middle? Alphabetical.
Yeah. Alphabetical.
Dylan, Kendall, Corey.
That's right.
So many problems. Keep going.
I was just going to say,
Parasite.
I was rudely interrupted by our producer that, Parasite is a perfect example. It won like 3-4 Academy Awards. It was the first international feature film, a movie not in English to win Best Picture.
Right.
Virtually nobody knew who that was. And I think even the director at one point said, thanks to Quentin Tarantino, as he was accepting one of the Oscars, he said, because when nobody else had heard of our movie, he always put us on a list of his favorite movies or movies to follow, stuff like that. And so that's a perfect example. And here it won a bunch of different types of awards. And now I feel like I need to check this out because this is like a lot of people seem to genuinely really love this movie. And so that for me, I was going in, I hadn't seen yet 1917. Right. That got a bunch of awards. I was intrigued by, I like seeing how other films will do if they're as critically acclaimed, if they win as many awards as they're sort of a critically acclaimed, like people are projecting they might. Ford versus Ferrari, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
Yeah.
So for me, it's almost kind of like building a list of movies that I want to see. Maybe I remove some after I watch the Oscars because maybe it wasn't as exciting as people thought. So I'm going in for that. And then I love some of the montages where you were describing it earlier. It's like they're talking about the power of music and how there's certain songs that just, that song is the movie and the movie is the song. And they put together this really pretty montage of like some of your favorite moments associated with music. Right. And certain films, and they put it all together. It's that kind of stuff that I enjoy watching for. So, but yeah, I thought it was a good show. They had some interesting musical acts, and I thought Billie Eilish did a really nice cover of Yesterday.
I did like that. Yep.
I have not listened to any of her music, so for anyone, you can tell me which ones to listen to now. That yeah, I thought the cover was good though. What about you?
I'm with you. I really just use it as a what should I try to watch over the next couple months kind of a thing. And Kendall, you and I talked about that. Like, oh, that does look interesting. I think I'll check that out. I've been wanting to watch Joker. I still haven't gotten around to it. I want to watch Joker less after Joaquin's acceptance speech, but whatever. I hope he's okay. That acceptance speech was like, he came off like there's stuff.
Have you ever seen him do anything?
Yeah,
live?
I know he's a
that's
character.
Who he is.
I know he's a character.
That's what he does.
And part of his sort of circuitous sort of rant about socio-political things.
C or S?
It's a C. Circuitous. Okay. I might be saying it wrong, incorrectly. It wasn't a direct route, is my point. I agreed with some of it, but then other parts I'm like, man, he's talking about cows and I don't know. Anyway, so I watch for that. I watch to see what I want to watch over the next couple of months, but I also really like to see, I like the comedy and I like watching some of my favorite actors. I love just seeing how they interact.
Yeah.
When they're not on camera and it's not like for show, when they're just sort of in the background hanging out, like which one of those guys are friends and do we think they actually hang out? It's kind of fun for me to see those little subtle interactions and people that you wouldn't think are friends in real life are like have been friends for a really long time and hang out and stuff regularly. So there was a couple fun moments. I think I liked the Steve Martin and Chris Rock. I liked their we're unofficial host intro. That was kind of fun. Yeah. Josh Gad did a funny little a couple things, specifically when he was talking about his friend and co-star in Frozen, Idina Menzel, and he was making fun of who butchered her name a couple years ago.
I can't remember, but it got its own Twitter page.
John Travolta, he messed up her name. And so when he said, my friend Idina Menzel, which is pronounced exactly as it's spelled, was funny. Maya Rudolph and Kristen Wiig. I love Kristen Wiig and her chemistry with Maya Rudolph. They were presenters and they had a funny little thing. Same with Will Ferrell and Julia Louis-Dreyfus. So there was just, I like seeing those the presenters and the comedy aspect of it. The live performance by Cynthia Erivo of Stand Up, I didn't know anything about her. She's a Broadway star, screenwriter, actor. That was a stellar performance. I'm like, I have to get that song. I thought she was awesome.
What song was that again?
Stand Up. It was for the movie about Harriet Tubman.
Okay. Breakthrough? No. Yeah.
I don't know. She rocks.
I didn't see that.
She was amazing. James Corden and Rebel Wilson coming out in their cat outfits, making fun of cats, which when this was in pre-production and during production, they're like, it could be Oscar buzz worthy. And then it was just this huge box office flop to the point that even the studio said, don't go watch this.
Yeah.
So they come out in their cat costumes and say, as stars of the movie Cats, we can tell you that, what was it? The award they were handing out, visual effects. We can tell you there's nothing more important than visual effects because the CGI was so bad with the fur that was one of the reasons people didn't go watch it. Okay. So that was kind of funny. Wow. So that was funny. And
them batting the microphone like it was a cat play toy was the funniest part of that. Because they were both
so
Google it. And also John Travolta called Idina Menzel Adele Dazeem.
Not even.
He's trying to say. And you can go find John Travolta, Idina Menzel, and the clips on there. But Adele Dazeem, he just you can just tell. Honestly, I kind of feel bad because when you're in that room, it's not surprising that some of these people kind of go on rants and say stuff wrong because it's,
Somebody else made fun of him the same night for mispronouncing her name. It came up again is how noteworthy that was from a couple years ago. I don't watch every year. I catch every maybe third year. But of all the award shows, that's the one that I try to watch. The other one that I try to watch is the Golden Globes because it's movie and TV. Mm-hmm. So like when I was watching The Office, it's cool to see, Steve Carell in there and all those guys. So you can kind of kill two birds with one stone and see the shows and movies that you might want to check out. So, yeah, it was cool.
Cool. We watched. So I started watching, like right at the tail end of Steve Martin and Chris Rock, and I did not know that they were going to be introducing the Oscars, and then I was sad because it was the tail end of it. So I missed all that, and I haven't had an opportunity yet to go back and watch anything. There's stuff that you guys just mentioned that I'm going to look up and watch probably later tonight. But no. So then the only two awards that happened before I had to get up and go do something else were Toy Story 4 winning Best Animated Feature, and then
it's the Pixar award.
And then,
frankly,
right, yeah. What was the best Pixar movie?
What was the best Pixar movie this year?
And then Brad Pitt for supporting actor, and for Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, and those are I saw like 4 movies all year. And one of them was Star Wars, which never wins anything,
right?
Which is a farce. That's one of the things why it's like when you talk about and I do the same thing. So I pay attention to the Oscars somewhat. I at least look to see who won what, just to kind of like put together my catch up list on what am I going to wait to come out on stream. To watch, but I also have to ask myself the question of how much do I trust these people? Because my favorite movies never win anything.
Yeah,
but so there is that. However, so anyway, but those are 2 movies that I actually did see in 2019, and so I was just like told my wife before I got. I'm like, okay, well I'm done so far. Like I can call myself like it. Every movie I saw that won an award.
Boom.
So I watched.
What did you think about Once Upon a Time in Hollywood?
I love it. Yeah. I loved it.
Yeah.
I mean, does it
Highly
make sense when
recommend it.
movies like that go that why there's so much buzz?
I think so.
There's certain
that
things.
That movie is definitely worth the buzz.
There's sometimes you feel like there's ulterior motives for why a movie got picked up, and then there's other times you're like, no, it's just fantastic.
It was fantastic, and legitimately, Brad Pitt was amazing in that film.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed it.
Also, Leo DiCaprio wasn't he in it too? Wasn't it?
Leo was the lead.
He's the lead.
Okay.
But no, it was. I mean, and there's this thing that's been happening lately with like kind of conspicuous revisionist history that I enjoy, and so there's a touch of that in there as well.
Well, I was going to say, so I didn't know anything about the movie other than 60s Hollywood. That's all I knew.
Yeah.
So, and it's long. It's like 2.5,
a very long
3
movie.
hours, right?
Yeah.
So I'm watching it, and it starts to go.
So don't watch it if you're a whiner.
Yeah. And so it starts to go where it starts to go.
Right.
To the Manson family, Sharon Tate stuff.
Yeah.
Which I knew historically. I knew of that event.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, has this all been a backstory for... And then it goes somewhere completely different. And I'm like, oh, man.
They took it. They took a real story and said, what if this happened instead?
It's exactly right.
And that's what they did. And I love it.
Yeah. So
it's like Abraham Lincoln fighting zombies.
It's exactly right.
That's what I want to see.
So I knew nothing. Then I thought I knew. And then I definitely didn't know. And then it was like, wow, this isn't really like Tarantino. There's normally a lot of, oh, there it is.
Exactly.
And then the whole last 10 minutes
is just... The movie is so Tarantino.
It's so much blood.
It. People need to see the movie.
Yeah. I didn't really give anything away. But yeah.
It is a very funny movie. Nobody mixes blood with comedy like Tarantino.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it was something else. Were there any of the others that you actually saw?
I'm always like you. I'm always rooting for movies like Star Wars to at least win a technical award.
Yeah.
You know, it's like get something so they can slap that on Disney Plus on the front, like Academy Award winner.
Yeah. How can you be hitting box office records and not win stuff?
Yeah, that's a big debate.
That's why I don't trust them.
That's a big debate that I think they're considering some kind of, essentially, I'm going to make up a term, a Blockbuster Award.
Yeah.
Which I think they should. And I was reading an article today about how it has.
If you win, you get a blue polo.
In the history of the Oscars, this has the lowest Nielsen rating of any Oscars ever.
Yeah.
Which is not surprising. I mean, they made it out to be like no one cares about.
They did that to themselves.
They did. Yeah. No, it's not that. It's unless you have an antenna to watch it, which less and less people do, you had to have a cable or satellite subscription.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, you had to have a cable or satellite subscription. I had one to log into the ABC app, and it was still blacked out in the Columbus, Ohio market. So, like, you did that to yourself. This isn't because
which is crazy.
I don't think anyone cares. Yeah, I think some people are sick of the celebrity worship a little bit, but like, I don't think that's it. I think less people had access to it than ever before.
I mean, the dirty little secret is I watch TV via a $12 antenna.
Right.
That I bought at Meijer.
Yeah.
And I watched it with no problem.
Yeah, I've had antennas. I quit hooking them up to my TV because I never flipped to the antenna to watch anything. Mm-hmm. So I don't even hook it up anymore. But I think they partially did that to themselves. If you want people to watch it, put a free stream on YouTube and let people tune in and watch the Oscars. Anyways, I think that's a big thing. I think they should do some kind of fan favorite blockbuster. Like, let's just acknowledge, you know, people want to make fun of all the superhero movies, but they make billions of dollars. So does Star Wars. It's okay to give those movies an award if most people enjoy them.
Well, yeah, make it a big deal. Like there's, I mean,
and you can still.
There's some examples that like there's People's Choice Award and that sort of thing, but they don't get the same. It doesn't have the same feel to it.
Yeah.
Right. You know, as far as an Academy, and to me, I feel like something like that should be a much bigger deal than it is.
Yeah, and I think you can still base it off of artistic criteria. It's not like there aren't tons of people who are artistically pouring out their livelihood into films like Star Wars, and you've got makeup and costume and John Williams score, and it's not like people aren't working hard on it. So I think if they did something like that and they could introduce some kind of award like that, and then you've got something like Joker could compete for that too, Star Wars can compete for that. You've got something like Black Panther, they made a push for that a year or two ago to be considered for Best Picture. Give it that. You know,
but I think if you're into movies, you know where to go, excuse me, to get the ratings that will get you to the movies that you like. If you like high art, pretentious, independent stuff, you know that you'll look at the Cannes Film Festival list, and that's what you'll watch.
Sure.
If you want to go, what's the blockbuster, then you'll watch the MTV People's Choice Awards.
Yeah.
If you want somewhere kind of probably in the middle, based on more numbers than anything, you know it's going to be the...
well, right, but my counterpoint to that is, though, they're saying they want people to watch the Oscars.
Yeah, I get you.
So if you want people to see the other more, quote, artistic films, then maybe you need to have an award for the less, quote, artistic films so that people will tune in and see all of those things you should go pay ticket prices to go see.
I think that would make it more interesting.
And
having not just a category like that, but even shake up the whole idea of the Academy somehow.
Yeah.
Because right now it does to me, and I think to a lot of people, it's got to a point where it very much has that feel of, you know, there's a room, there's an echo chamber full of a whole bunch of really rich people who are out of touch with the rest of us.
Right.
And they're telling each other how awesome they are.
Yeah.
And then they put a camera on that room so the rest of us can watch it.
Right.
And that's what they're expecting me to be interested in.
Right.
Frankly, that's why, like, I'm okay with, like, well, I'll see bits and pieces of it, and then I'll just go back and see what the list is later.
Right. I just think there's a lot of people, like, that's what most people think when they think Oscars. So I 100% agree with you.
It's just a bunch of celebrities up there telling us what they think about politics, and I ain't going to watch.
I appreciate that there was much less of that than what I have come to expect.
Yeah.
So...
But I think there's a lot of people like us.
I think Ricky Gervais has a lot to do with that.
Yeah. But I think there's a lot of people like us that are like, I just want some movie recommendations when I see this stuff hit Netflix. Like that American Factory won Best Documentary, and that's been on Netflix.
Yeah,
and it was about a business in Dayton.
And she said, "Go Buckeyes!"
She said, "Go Buckeyes" from stage. So it's stuff like that. Like
She also quoted Karl Marx.
Well, we don't have to like everything they say.
Yeah.
But it's that idea, like.
But she said, "Go Buckeyes" from stage in Hollywood.
That sounds accurate. That sounds like your viewer. I think there's a lot of us that like to just know what to watch next.
Right.
And unrelated. I mean, related to the Oscars, but unrelated. Irishman got so little love at the Oscars and so much love before. I was very surprised. I don't think it got any awards last night.
It was nominated for
A bunch, and
Yeah.
it didn't win any. And there was a lot of like, oh, this is a contender for a bunch of awards, and I was surprised it didn't.
I
get
did
any.
think it was a class act that the director of Parasite, this is his second Oscar of the night now, and when he got the first one, he said, "I'm going to go drink until tomorrow morning." Then he got a second, and then they got a third for Best Picture. But anyway, for his second one for Best
So he
Director,
lied?
yeah, his second one for Best Director, he said, part of my style when I was in film school, I heard a quote that said, "The most personal stories are the most creative." And it was Martin Scorsese who said that. And the whole room stood for Scorsese. And then he just, the director of Parasite, just gave love to all the other directors. And sometimes that's just something they say to all my other fellow nominees. But here's this guy who was given legitimate love and thanking Quentin Tarantino for showing his movies when no one else would, and putting his movies on Tarantino's lists of must-watch films and hot directors to keep an eye on and blah, blah, blah. So it felt very genuine, which in that room can feel unique.
Well, in that room, like you can look at that guy and say, okay, he's not one of them yet.
Yeah, exactly.
And
right.
so I'm excited that
because he's literally in South Korea making movies.
like he's legitimately like excited and awed and flattered and
it felt cool. A movie that will never. Are we okay to move off of the Oscars?
Yeah, that's fine. Great.
A movie that'll never get an Oscar. I did a little deep dive research project today. I'm only going to hit on this, and then I want to ask our listeners a question and you guys a question. So coming out this week is the Sonic movie.
Sonic the Hedgehog,
Sonic the
Sega
Hedgehog.
video game character. Yep.
Jim Carrey plays Dr. Robotnik, and it's this Sonic movie. Now, here's why this is interesting to me as an artist and designer, because I had been getting little pieces of this story. This trailer came out in spring of last year. Okay.
right.
And when fans first saw how Sonic, the 3D rendered character, looked, there was just this public outpouring of hatred and vitriol towards the movie.
Ooh.
You don't say.
Which forced them to actually. So on Twitter, the director said, "We hear you. We're going to fix it." Now, here's where it gets really...
Words he wished he never said.
So I don't know this for a fact. I'll fact check myself later. I don't know that this has happened before. If it has, it's only been a couple times where a trailer comes out, and in today's day and age of online hatred and trolls and communities, and let's sign a petition, and we want a new 8th season of Game of Thrones, and give me the original JJ cut of the
Every annoying person sounds the same in our podcast.
But here's why this is interesting. So this is just a little snippet from Vanity Fair about the story. Okay. The April rollout of the trailer brought with it a bevy of headaches. Fans instantly pushed back against the character's bizarrely anthropomorphized appearance, including human teeth and a more muscular frame, as well as the director's subsequent Twitter promise to address concerns. He said, "The message is loud and clear," he wrote. "You aren't happy with the design and you want changes. It's going to happen. Everyone at Paramount and Sega are fully committed to making the character the best he can be." And so at that time, news of Sonic's redesign spurred its own debate, both whether the animators could potentially redo months of work in such a short period of time. Spoiler alert, they couldn't. And if fan outcry should dictate revisions to a film at all. We've talked about this in bites and bits before, but I want to bring it back up again. The aggressive nature of fan communities and online vitriol has swelled in the last few years. Paramount's decision to rework Sonic so heavily may now set an unfortunate precedent that other studios feel pressured to follow.
I hope not.
So we've talked about this with George Lucas. Like, at what point does it stop being his creation and the fans own it?
Right.
We can argue the semantics of those words, but I don't know that this has ever happened before. So I'm just picturing myself as one of the designers on the film. First of all, how did it get to the trailer stage without anybody pointing this out? That's my first question. You had concept art. You've been building this in 3D space. You've got hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of artists, and nobody went, guys, he looks kind of weird. Like, and then for it to come out and people confirm he looks insane, but then you're going to go, we're going to change it and release it next year and give you the version that you want. You have to go out. We'll post some side-by-side comparisons of what he looked like before and what he looks like now. I just think that's a really interesting question. Should fan outcry dictate revisions to really anything, not just film? But
so my answer, I have genuinely mixed thoughts, and my initial reaction is no. It is what it is. The studios decided what they wanted to make and they released it.
We talked about that with Star Wars.
Right. However, then there's the part of me that thinks back on my childhood to where you try to shortcut a job and one of your parents or loved ones was like, hey, you need to start over. If you'd done the job right the first time, you wouldn't have to start over and do it again. You've caused more work for yourself. And so, but that's hard when you're dealing with artists and you're designing something. So part of me thinks, you clearly didn't test like even images of Sonic with the target demographic audience. Let's be very clear. This isn't even like a huge number of people. This is
like adult fans of Lego.
20s and 30s, maybe a decade's worth of people.
I think there's a possibility there that because all right. So looking at the images now, before and after, and compare them to each other, he does look weird. And I have like recently read an article of someone else who was even further complaining that now they weren't irate or anything. I remember the tone of this article was along the lines of, I would have been okay with the original one. The new one's better, but as long as you're making it better, like he had something like that. The eyes are still separated, and I think like the real Sonic the Hedgehog didn't have that strip of fur between his eyes. Like there was
he actually has one big eye.
Yeah.
With two eyeballs,
right?
Two irises.
But anyway, so like looking at him, like I don't know. I can see there being reasons why the first one is what the first one is. I feel like it looks weird, but it looks more real. Maybe it looks more human-ish. I'm not sure. But I feel like, first of all, I don't believe for a second that it was thoughtless. That the original look of Sonic was thoughtless. I think that there was
intentional
probably
choices.
That they were intentional choices. I also don't necessarily think that it wasn't shopped. I feel like that's so obvious that they would have done that. My theory is that what actually happened was something went viral, and then a lot of people who otherwise wouldn't have cared or noticed got on board.
Yep.
That's what happened.
Yep.
I don't think it's everybody and his mother would have disagreed with the original Sonic the Hedgehog. I think they were convinced to disagree with the original Sonic the Hedgehog.
And that's where we can make it less about the Sonic movie and more like actual online petitions where people are saying we demand a different 8th season of Game of Thrones.
Right. Yeah, and then because it's fun to be mad and angry, our most popular episodes of this podcast were so because we got angry.
Yeah.
But
the hard thing here is you're dealing with a community of people. Let's be honest. Your Sonic the Hedgehog moviegoers are gamers.
Right.
I mean, there was no dig. There was no intentional. There was no intentional jab. They're gamers.
Yeah.
But guess what happens in a game? Things get software updates and patches.
Sure.
And so you're literally dealing with an audience who's used to being able to give direct feedback.
That's a great
and
point.
See things changed. And even though it's a movie, because this isn't going to happen with, the Lord of the Rings films in New Line Cinema. They're not changing. They're not making any drastic changes. But you're dealing with a fan base that's literally gamers, probably from a 10-year span, that are all, anyone who's going to go see this is used to that system. And we saw it with Star Wars Battlefront.
That's exactly what I was going to say. Yeah.
That there was so much negative feedback that they've since turned that game around in huge ways.
And people, I'm on a bunch of gaming communities where people are like, oh, I love playing it now.
It's so good.
A bunch of updates.
And so it's not, this isn't going to happen. This is by far the exception, not the rule with this kind of thing. So I think it happened because of the audience was literally, if there's a Venn diagram, there's barely any slivers on the edges. This is literally just gamers used to software updates. I'm not saying that's all the work was to change it, but I'm just saying that's what they're used to.
Well, that speaks to cultural expectations in immediacy. And have it your way whenever you want it, as fast as possible. We don't even have to go get our own food anymore. Like, we're getting increasingly used to this even more microwave mentality of do it the way I want it, when I want it, as fast as possible. And why haven't you done the other one yet? Our consumption models have changed. And we've talked about this when an entire season of a show comes out on Netflix, Stranger Things. And people have been waiting for years for this next season. And then they binge it in a weekend and go, where's my next episode?
Yeah.
How many hours and man hours and months and years went into those 8 episodes just because you consumed them at an insane rate doesn't, So it's, to me, it's multifaceted, but it's a very interesting conversation. And when does it become mine? And what am I allowed to demand? And should you honor that demand? Because I can make a case for that director. When he chose to engage, he opened himself up to all the opinions.
Right.
You could have just said, well, this is what we're doing. But you could argue maybe he's going, now I'm going to have more viewers at on opening weekend because I've made the changes. Because honestly, looking at the first one, being a weird artist, I wouldn't go watch that movie.
Yeah.
I wouldn't. When I see the pictures of the second one, as a guy who grew up on those games on Sega Genesis, I would go watch that, and Jim Carrey's in it.
Yeah. There's a part of me too that I think, especially with the gaming community, there's a much higher likelihood of a large knee-jerk reaction to this kind of thing.
Yeah.
But as far as the immediacy kind of culture, I see most frequently when any kind of video game company or something like this happens, most of the gamers are the first to jump in and say, take your time, do it and do it right, and we'll pay for it.
Right.
And so I think there's that initial shock from the reaction. But I actually think gamers are more willing to wait it out for it to be done in their view correctly. Than we give them credit for. I think there was a lot of people that was like, fine, delay it a year. I want a good Sonic movie. I don't want a rush Sonic movie.
Sure.
And that's how I feel. Like, as excited as I am for multiple Marvel shows and Star Wars shows on Disney Plus or whatever, I'd rather wait another year or two and get to see it done really well than them just keep blitzing content.
And in the meantime, that gives you time to go outside and touch a tree.
Sure. Maybe even
remind yourself of what color grass might be.
Right.
And then when you come back in, you can actually cook dinner and then maybe even talk to a person.
No. Anyway, I love talking about the movies and shows and entertainment with you guys. This is always a fun time. And
and we'll make sure to share the pictures of the side-by-side Sonic. Really, the original one is truly horrifying.
He looks side by side. I agree.
It's real bad.
If you just showed it to me and said this is the new this is the Sonic, I'm like, okay, cool.
Yeah,
I wouldn't care. But I'm me, and I'm not a lot of other people.
Yeah.
I'm just a guy.
Isn't it good? We're not all wired the same.
It is good. Frustrating at times.
Speaking about the things that make us unique and the stories that come from that, we are going to be doing an episode about funny or odd family stories and anecdotes and anecdotes. And we would love for you to share with us. Sorry, I peeked a little bit there. We would love for you to share your stories with us if you're willing. You don't have to use names. You can say my crazy uncle or whatever. And there's 2 ways that you can do that. We will post a link at the on the description of this episode. You can click that link, and that allows you to send up to 60 seconds in a recorded voice message that we will actually play on the episode, so you will get to hear your voice. Or you could just email us at fromthemiddle@protonmail.com. Use the subject line family stories, and we will be sure to include those. I think it would be fun, and we'll come up with a few as well. But we really want to, as we always say, we want to make this two-way and interactive. So if you share your stories with us, it would be fun to share them.
Yeah, and sorry if you said this, you can email them to us, message them to us if you prefer those. Not everyone feels comfortable leaving a voicemail.
Yeah.
So if you'd rather just shoot us an email or shoot us a message on Facebook or Twitter or whatever, that's fine.
Yeah.
You can do that too if that's more comfortable for you.
So voicemails are fun.
They are fun.
We love having them.
But we know not everyone wants their voice on our
and
international podcast.
Speaking of Facebook, I do a lot of our social, not all of it. You guys help out from time to time as well. But most of what we post is on Facebook. So look us up on Facebook at From the Mid Pod. We post a lot of links and videos, and they're typically like a second layer of whatever we talk about on an episode. So, if we talk about this Sonic thing, for example, we'll post other articles and videos where you can see it. So we try to make it even more interactive and not just leave it with our podcast. If you're not watching on YouTube or whatever, we try to give links that support it. Like Dan calling in last week and sharing his Bill Murray stories. We did some fun Bill Murray links and some more pictures. Dan was at a golf tournament and happened to see him again. And so we posted those pictures. It's fun, and it's another way that you can interact with us. All good?
All good.
Good.
Seacrest out.
Seacrest out.